Welcome to episode 6 of the D5 Football Podcast. This week we're joined by Matt Winter of Woking, who's the goalkeeping coach there and for the academy as well. A bit of a different one from how we previously do it. Last ones we've done have always been with players and going through the career, but this week it's going to be a bit different in the way we do it. It's not going to be as chronological, if you like, although there is still bits of Woking we're going to talk about. We're going to be asking about obviously his time at Woking and just general questions about sort of goalkeeping and coaching. And now we got into doing what he does. So first question we always ask, how did you get into football?
First of all, thanks for having me on. Probably like many or majority of people in football now, just playing as a kid, grassroots. It was, just say from the age of 6 to age of 7, I'm just playing for local teams. Like many, flitted in and out of academies, trials here and there. And then sort of by the age of 16, was playing at a good level, still grassroots, but a good level of the sort of area that I was living, which was Woking, and then became part of the academy at Woking at 16. So so very much just like most, grew up in local grassroots teams. As I say, spent a little bit of time at some professional academies, just mainly on sort of trials and things like that. Back then, as an outfield player, playing mainly as a striker, and probably when I was about 13, decided that I didn't want to be a striker anymore, and I wanted to play in goal, and that it sort of came from there. Played in goal for say 2 or 3 years as a grassroots player, and then then got an opportunity with Woking as a player in their academy system.
So we sort of joked about this before in the messages when I first contacted you. You said you've not really had much of a career. Obviously now you're a goalkeeping coach, and you said you were a striker playing outfield, moved to goalkeeping. So that changed for you then. Through your career, you've had somewhat of a playing career, obviously playing even if it's not sort of national level or anything like that. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, I say about 13, decided that I wanted to play in goal, and I enjoyed playing in goal. So, took that route. So signed at Woking at 16, was there for 2 years. It was an enjoyable time. It was my local team, and I enjoyed every minute of being involved around the academy, and probably didn't push on as much as I could have, and that's maybe not a regret now, but I would maybe was quite comfortable there, and it was quite apparent at the end of 2 years that I wasn't going to progress my career where I maybe thought I could do. So that's when I decided that maybe I could still play, but also obviously got to look for something a little bit different, be a little bit open-minded, and sort of wanted to stay in sport. That's when I thought maybe at first about the coaching, and I was lucky to be accepted onto a coaching degree, where I really found my sort of not love, but the enjoyment of coaching and being on the pitch and working with players and learning stuff that maybe I knew football, but learning the other side of coaching and whatnot. So that's really what came up. I knew I wasn't gonna go anywhere with the playing side, so it was sort of, how can I stay in football, because that football is a thing that I love, and how can I stay in that and hopefully get a career in the coaching side of things.
So that sort of changed then. So I think I doing bits of research. There is sort of you obviously Woking in their academy, and sort of I think found a picture of you sort of winning a trophy, something like that. So there was still some kind of, you were there. It's not a case of you were absolutely nobody, sort of an outsider type of thing. Never, had only played. You'd actually had some kind of sort of progression that was a bit more than average to someone else, but obviously not at that level. So for you then making that change, obviously from a playing side, that's maybe a bit different because you're a goalkeeper. If you're a player or something, you're competing for, there's perhaps 20, 30 spots within a team. But if you're something like a coach, there might only be 3 or 4, and it's a goalkeeper coach, you might only have 1 or maybe 2 if you've got some kind of assistant. So for you then making that change, you must have been thinking, well, you got to up your game within coaching stuff, because there's a lot of competition for those types of places, in terms of coaching or whatever.
Yeah, I think so. I think probably when thinking back to when I went to uni, did I really 100% think I want to be a goalkeeper coach, or that is where I want to go? Probably not. And maybe if I had thought that, then maybe I wouldn't have gone to uni, and I'd have just focused on other things and sort of building a portfolio working with clubs. But I wanted to just do coaching as a broad thing, and because of my position and my sort of small playing history as a goalkeeper, I obviously always was interested in that side of the game, saw things from that point of view. So whenever I had the opportunity to go and work in clubs and do placements and be around sort of teams, then generally my focus was around the goalkeeper. I still played when I was at uni, and the standard at university was a good standard. We played in good leagues. It wasn't bad. I played for a couple of local teams close to the university. I trained with them as well. So I was still playing semi okay level, and obviously thinking that actually coaching could be something for me. And you're right, the chances to be a goalkeeper coach is one in a team and whatnot. So look, it was natural because that was my position, I guess, but it wasn't maybe saying at first at 18 going to university and studying a coaching degree that I thought I'd come out the other side, and that would definitely be my sort of pathway for future work.
Is that something perhaps, I guess I don't know if you've ever thought about it, have you nailed down sort of goalkeeper coach as your thing though, or is it something potentially you might think, well, if the opportunity came up perhaps for sort of something else, perhaps even if it still involves goalkeeper coaching, we've seen it before where some lads, they sort of, they're the goalkeeper coach, but they're also an assistant manager or a goalkeeper coach, but also sort of just a general sort of first team coach, that type of thing. Is that something you thought about doing, jumping over to something else, or is this thing, are you thinking, no, I'm going to nail down goalkeeper coach, work on this one thing, and that might take you far?
I think the goalkeeper coach is where I want to be, and I'm extremely privileged to have the role I do and do the job I do day in, day out. So that is what my love is. That's what I want to work on and develop and improve every day. Assistant manager, probably not. I had a go at that a couple of years ago when the manager and the assistant manager got sent off in the same game, and it didn't end particularly well. But so maybe that was my one and only game in that sort of role. But certainly now, I see myself as a goalkeeper coach. The goalkeeper coach, is an important role within the coaching staff, but also, can they work with the back four, the back five, and different units in the team, certainly. And that's the sort of, I wouldn't say the modern way, but that's how, the better goalie coaches and the higher up you go, what they can bring to the team, not just working solely with the goalkeeper.
So you mentioned, like I said, you was at uni and there's whole sort of thing, you was at the academy. So when was the point when you said, right, okay, goalkeeper coaches, there's always other things that I could do with just general coaching. Goalkeeper coaching is going to be the thing that I'm going to do. When did you make that decision? And what was your first step on that ladder?
Yeah, it wasn't, it's probably only sort of 6 or 8 months probably prior to leaving university where you get the sort of the hit that, right, what am I going to do when I leave? I've been here for 3 years and studying, and I need to find employment or work. And I actually got in touch with a coach that I knew before I went to university, and he worked with myself and also my brother, who was a goalkeeper. And just sort of, he's a full-time goalkeeper coach, worked in the Premier League and in the Championship with a club, currently a Premier League club at the minute. And just sort of said, do you have any sort of work? He owned his own goalkeeper school, so he was not only working with the elite athletes day in, day out at a Premier League level, but he was doing stuff away from that, grassroots sort of stuff. And it was sort of through him I got a real foot in the door and an opportunity just to coach at the grassroots level, go in and work with goalkeepers and build my coaching portfolio, so that's sort of where it really started from. He was really good for me because he gave me an opportunity to do it, and at that time, without doing a lot of my badges, I was doing a few, but without doing all of them, he gave me that opportunity. He gave me opportunity to come in and watch him work at an elite level, and for me to start understanding what was required of the role more, and opportunities to go in and coach some of the goalies at Fulham, where he was. So yeah, it was great for me to have him to give me those experiences and exposure to the different environments.
You mentioned sort of goalkeeper schools. Now, this is something I just want to, I've sort of heard of these and sort of seen people, a lot of sort of goalkeeper coaches seem to have their own sort of schools where they have their own sort of, if you like, it's almost their own sort of squad of players they coach, and that might be sort of either sort of youngsters, 7 or 8, up to sort of older. What's involved in that type of thing? Maybe, well, at least in sort of from what you've seen around,
Yeah,
everyone will do it differently. What type of thing is involved? Because I imagine it's quite different compared to other positions where you join a club to have that type of coaching, where you're, because of the way the goalkeeper is, it's still involved with outfield plays, but a lot of it is sort of it's the unique position in football that is sort of very different. So what's involved with that type of thing, and how would you get into it, first of all, creating that type of thing? Because there'll be other clubs and other clubs in terms of their own coaching, where how do you get sort of what I'm trying to ask is, how would you get you sort of starting that? You're going to need some players to coach, first of all, but they're going to be players who already exist in other people's clubs and that type of thing.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I do run my own one as well. Now we have a couple of centres that we run on a weekly basis, but really it's mainly aimed at the grassroots goalkeeper, who many clubs and a lot of goalie coaches say the same thing, are not neglected in terms of the coaching they get. A lot of grassroots clubs are based around volunteered parents who maybe done their level 1 or whatnot, and that are they're giving up their their Saturdays or their Wednesday evening to coach the team and play games on a weekend. And it was really just to bridge that gap, really, because any boy that's going in or girl that's going into the pro game and pro academy is getting that regular goalie coaching, with some strong goalkeeper coaches, and those who aren't, we're not really getting anything. So it's sort of the extra coaching or the extra training that as a goalkeeper school or centre that we can offer to those grassroots goalkeepers to allow them to improve their skills and understand the position, develop their confidence, and that's sort of really where it is. There is that neglect. I work with quite a few grassroots clubs now, in and around Woking, which is great for us. And as a club, we're I mentioned to you off before we started the community stuff. We're very much a community-based club. It's a big part of what we do. So I'm able to go and work with local goalkeepers, and then they come and watch us play and watch our first team goalie and things like that, which is great. So but yeah, look, that's sort of where it is. It's trying to sort of bridge the gap in terms of the lack of coaching that they maybe get through their grassroots or their local sides, and give them the opportunity to develop their skills. It's a lot of grassroots sides see their goalie is great because they put him in goal for shooting drills and whatnot. But actually, are they getting the technical information to develop their game? Probably not. So look, that's what it's all about in the goalkeeper schools, and that's sort of where I started, sort of back in 2013. When I finished uni, and that was a great start for me, and I say something that I still run for myself these days, because it's very rewarding working with the young goalies and seeing them progress, not just working with the first team goalies as well.
So for you then, we sort of got a question about this later, but we can sort of touch on it a bit now. You mentioned the difference between, you could obviously the teams with the outfield players and the goalkeeper, and you said, listen, I was never any good at football, but I did play a bit in a team, and the goalkeeper was sort of right, he's in net, we use him for drills or whatever, but they don't really, like I said, get the proper coaching, what you just said. But what type of balance then would you have? Because they've got to be at a team, obviously, being involved in real games, even if it is only grassroots level. What type of balance would you then, for you, recommend for a youngster, even if they're not looking to be professional, just looking to play for fun and get to the highest level they can do? What type of balance would you recommend between being involved with an actual club, playing actual games, even at grassroots level, but then going to one of these dedicated clubs where there is sort of maybe a one-on-one training or in a small group where they can sort of fine-tune sort of your talents or whatever as being a goalkeeper?
Yeah, it's got to be the best of both, I think. And no one, game time is massive. Whatever age, it's important that you're playing games. That's where you're going to get the best understanding, your best practices. And have to make decisions, see different scenarios develop. But it's just an additional thing to be able to go and get that extra, whether it's an hour a week or a couple of hours a week to really work technically, especially at a young age, if they're able to get the technical information and understanding in their game then. And then as they're getting older, building the tactical side. But of course, there's got to be that trade-off, and all the boys and girls that we have in our goalkeeper centres play for their grassroots team. It's not a separate thing. It's not like we say, you've got to come with us, you can't play. Yeah. They seek us out for the additional training that obviously they're not getting at grassroots level. And, hopefully they train with us once a week. They train with their team probably once or twice a week, and they're able to take a bit of everything into their games every weekend. And, we have good relationships with the local clubs, to say some we work in and some pass their goalies on to us for us to help them and develop. And it's, it's a massive thing for every grassroots team if they can have someone in the goal that is confident and understanding of their position and the technical side of it. And obviously as they get older, building that tactical knowledge.
And you said you were outfield until you were 13, and then all those few years you became a goalkeeper. But obviously there'll be goalkeepers who are quite young and stuff like that, 6 or 7 or whatever. I know when I think it might have been I've got some trophies up here that I got at the end. I think I only played until I think I was only with a club when I was like 8 or whatever, just down on pitch next to the school. But there's got to be a goalkeeper. So it seems you're involved with sort of even some of the young ones, but also the older ones. I imagine for a kid to say, I want to be a goalkeeper at that age, it's quite sort of, whether it be boys or girls, you said you'd also got girls teams and stuff as well. To say at that age, I want to be a goalkeeper when the pressure might be to be a striker, because that's sort of the glamorized one. That must be quite sort of big for a kid to say, do you not think? Even at that, whether it be 6 or 7 or even a bit older at 10 or 11.
Yeah, I think so. I think it, even in, say, the 7 or 8 years I've been coaching, you see trends. You see, Messi's and Ronaldo's, and everyone wants to be them. You see goalies come along at the same, and Manuel Neuer, and people want to be them. I think, when I was growing up, certainly, although I was playing on pitch, I'd love to go and goal. I'd look at goalkeepers at the time, Peter Schmeichel, David Seaman, those sort of things. You want to replicate them at the park or in the playground or whatnot. So I think it works like that, really. I say we encourage anyone who comes into us as a young goalie, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years of age, we certainly encourage them to be a goalie and enjoy being a goalkeeper, and the fun aspect of throwing themselves around, making big saves and that side of things. But at the same time, we encourage them to, experience playing on the pitch as well. We don't want them to be shoehorned into just playing in goal. That's something that we do encourage, because otherwise they get to 13 or 14, for whatever reason, they decide that goalkeeper isn't for them anymore, and they've never experienced anything else in football. That's something that we certainly will push, and vice versa. Like my experience myself, I played in goal just as sort of with mates and things like that, and it got to a point at 13 where I decided that I wanted to be a goalie, and this is the route I wanted to follow. And doing those little bits before probably helped me, and getting a little bit of coaching, give me that understanding to be able to step in and do a good job or good enough job at the time, and really build my goalkeeping. So yeah, I think it's important that we encourage the young boys and girls that want to be goalkeepers, because sometimes I speak to local managers and they say, oh, we've got 20 boys in this age group over 2 teams, and none of them are interested in going in goal, and another team might have 4 or 5, and it's important that they all give them the opportunity to have a go in goal and experience it and see how much they like it, and be exposed to getting some coaching, and we're looking at the goalkeepers of the future, and yeah, hopefully that someone that I coach maybe can take that next step.
What you mentioned there just come up with another question about the fact that some teams might have no goalkeepers or people who want to play in goal, while others might have 4 or 5. Goalkeeping is that awkward position where there's only one of you, so you can only have one. You can have a backup or whatever, but they might not get played a lot, or you might have to swap them around, then they're only getting half the time. Whereas if you're someone, like a sort of, you could outfield player, you can sort of move about and still, so if you're a centre back or whatever, you can sort of play, if you've got too many, or you can play midfield, or you can play right back or whatever. And while it's not, if you're trying to build up that position, you are still getting some type of skills. Whereas, I can't imagine a goalkeeper sticking him at left wing that gain that many skills relevant to goalkeeping, apart from the fact that they might sort of realise, oh no, actually no, I prefer playing on the wing compared to a goalkeeper or whatever. I guess it is at that young age you want to, I think, not just sort of in football, in general, life in school or whatever you want, especially at that young age, try as many different things as possible that could be then an avenue for them later in life, because the last thing you want is them to find the thing at 30 years old and then they realise, oh, I should have been doing this since I was 12 or whatever. So I think that's a general thing for life as well, is sort of try as many different things as you can, and if it don't work, then it don't work, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's important that not just positionally, but just if it's sport, for example, that, you know, there's so much football and opportunity to play football with, you know, grassroots teams, with private academies, with, you know, something like Goalkeeper School that I run, and Football League and Premier League academies, that there's so much football about for people to play. But it's important that, you know, they balance that off with trying other things, other sports. You know, many people that I coach, and maybe their winter sport might be football, but they'll do a summer sport, whether that be athletics or something like cricket. It's important that, especially at a young age, you know, from a goalkeeping point of view, that, yeah, they get that exposure to being in goal, but they also, you know, are able to go and play on pitch. You know, I have many boys that play on a Saturday in goal, on a Sunday on pitch, and it certainly helps their development. And if they are going to be goalkeepers of the future, you know, we know what the modern goalkeeper is looking like at the moment, and they've got to be good with their feet. So if you've got a goalkeeper that's able to go and play, you know, 20 games on pitch and are comfortable in possession and able to make those sort of decisions in possession, that's certainly going to help them in their development moving forward.
I think I can't remember his name, but there's that Brazilian goalkeeper, I think he retired a few years ago, who scored about 100 goals or whatever, because he took all the penalties with free kicks. So not quite outfield in that type of sense, but still sort of having different skills, which, listen, if for his team, he scored quite a lot of goals for him, so for him, it was quite good.
There's Premier League examples, isn't there, at the minute? Someone like an Edison or an Allison that are, you know, extremely, you know, gifted on the ball and able to play, you know, the style of play which is sort of adopted and what they wanted, and that's why they've been brought in by their club. So, you know, if we're looking at grassroots keepers now, it's important that they work on those elements. Kicking is another thing, you know, that's a massive thing for me. I work with goalkeepers who get to 17, 18 and they've played out from the back, or they've played short all the time and they're not confident to kick long ball. And, you know, that's something that I work with the younger goalies, trying to build up that longer strike. You know, not that that's the first thing we want them to do, but they've got to be able to do those sort of things as they move through and get older.
Is that the general sort of thing of what you're doing? Because obviously, I mean, you're going to want, for bragging rights, but also for the people you meet, you're going to want someone from your whatever you're working into to go on and make it up at a level. Not even talking professional, even just sort of non-league level or whatever. You want them to go as far as possible. So is that something you're trying to do, where you're just sort of saying, we don't know how you're going to develop in terms of the skills you're going to naturally develop compared to coaching? So is your thing just give them as many different skills as possible, you know, in terms of, like I said, the kicking, you want them to be able to do it in many different ways, so that then if they then are the 1% who even get a fair chance of being at sort of even near professional level or even non-league, that a club will then go, here's this lad who's been coached in many different ways. Or a girl, obviously, we can speak a bit about the girls' football. There's someone who's been coached in many different ways. You know, a lot of different talent. We're going to take them over this other guy who's not been coached as much. Whatever. Is that something you're trying to do? Because, listen, I get it. You know, you're going to want them to go on and do quite well.
Yeah, I think it's being all round, being able to and having adaptability. You know, I just think the example of, you know, my role in the first team. You know, the current manager very different to the last manager we had in terms of the style of football and what he wanted to do. And although the goalkeeper is different, you know, if I look at the goalkeeper, would they have had to change their skill set? Possibly. Would they be able to adapt with the different types of styles being asked of them? Maybe not. And obviously that's at this level is a recruitment thing. You know, they'll be recruited particularly on their skills. But yeah, so from the young goalies, we're trying to build an all-rounded goalkeeper. Can they play out from the back and be comfortable on the ball, but also, you know, are they able to, you know, distribute the ball over distance, because that's another style and another, you know, that a manager may or may not want. Are they a commanding goalkeeper that is aggressive in what they do, or are they, you know, someone who will sit deep and their defence will sit deep as well? So yeah, look, I think at this young age, there's no, the goalkeeper must be this or the goalkeeper must be that. We're looking for that all-round goalkeeper. I think every goalie has things that are, you know, I like to call them their X factor. You know, even the young boys that I work with this afternoon, there's an X factor to what they do what is their one thing that's really good? What is one thing that they need to work on? Everyone's very different, but certainly looking for that all round, that they could be dropped into any scenario and they'd be able to deal with those situations.
Yeah, obviously you're Woking now, obviously a men's team, which we're going to come on to speak in a bit, obviously about your time there and stuff that happened, how the team had done as well. But you also mentioned you've got girls teams. Now, listen, I'm not expert on the women's game. I follow a guy who covers them, but I'm not an expert, however. From what you've seen, obviously, from what you do, what is in terms of goalkeeping, obviously, what is the difference between bringing, play goalkeepers through at the men's level compared to, the relationship with the women's teams or whatever, and in terms of, what they do? Because there are different steps, they've got their own different systems and different sort of funding and different type of things. So what's sort of the difference, and what are sort of, are there any aspects where the men's do it better, or the aspects where the women's sort of system of recruiting players does it better, and what sort of the pros and cons of both of them?
I think it's very. I think in previous years, I think definitely in the goalkeeper situation within the women's game, it seemed like the outfield players were going strength to strength and the technical ability, but maybe the goalkeepers were possibly getting left behind. But that's certainly not the case anymore, especially at the top level in the professional game. The quality of goalkeeping is very good. There's obviously physical differences between the male and female goalkeeper. I was on a course at the minute where they were having a discussion a couple of weeks ago, and maybe about the size of the goal. Well, the average female goalkeeper is a lot smaller than the average male goalkeeper, but they defend the same goal. Is that a fair thing? Little things like that. But yeah, equally to the boys I coach, the girls are great. I think maybe there's probably more boys that are keen to be goalkeepers than maybe girls, but I think that's certainly changing. And it's great when I go into work in the local grassroots teams, and there's young girls that are keen and want to get on and learn their skills and improve, and playing matches as goalkeepers, because it is the toughest position on the pitch. You're out there, you're on your own. You've got to make those decisions. But yeah, look, I say the professional women's game is going from strength to strength, and I think that's clear to see. I think from a goalkeeping point of view, like I said, 10, 15 years ago, you watch the little women's football that was on the TV then you'd probably say the goalkeeper position was the biggest difference between men's and the women's game. But that's certainly there's some really top women's goalkeepers out there at the minute, and say technically there isn't a lot of difference. Physically there certainly is, and they're little considerations that you've got to have when you're working with the younger girls, like the hand size, for example, and how the technique for making saves or handling the ball is, typically a woman's hands are going to be smaller than a man's, so you've got to adjust little things like that. And they're not big things, they're little things that you maybe have to drop in and just have that knowledge and awareness of when you're coaching girls. But really most things stay the same.
I think, listen, I'm not lots of things I know about football, but women's football is one I'm an expert on, so I'm not going to sit here and claim that. But from what I have seen, I watched I think it was the Women's World Cup, watching England or whatever, and sort of you could see, and I also seen some clips from, like I said, 10 or 20 years ago where, let's be honest, it wasn't great, but you could see the difference, even in 10 or 20 years of coaching and changing the way things are done, the difference between how things have changed and stuff like that. I think it's also about sort of, you said that you generally, from what you've seen, from what you've done on your courses and what you've seen, that the girls generally don't want to be goalkeepers, but there has to be a goalkeeper, so that might sort of force some of them into it. And if they like it, then that's good. So you think, is it the same sort of the lads and stuff like that, where it might not be the desired position, but it's just a case of, with the girls, get them trying lots of different sort of, playing striker, midfield, goalkeeper, and then if they find the thing that they like, then that's sort of good.
Yeah, exactly that. And it's, the girls that we have on our weekly centres, they're treated no differently to the lads that we have on, and they all work together in groups. And, the boys, there's some really good girl goalkeepers amongst our group, and the boys, know they're in competition when they're working with them because they're good goalkeepers. So, but yeah, I think that's the rule is the same, giving that exposure and allowing that position. Great if you've got someone who wants to be that goalkeeper, then certainly obviously makes the job of the coach a lot easier. But it's important that there's an opportunity to try and experience new positions. That makes no difference, male or female.